Hey, this is Troy Erickson from copywriting.org, and we've got another OG interview today with somebody who's been in the space for a very long time and has done some amazing things pre-internet as well for companies like Apple, and potentially also made the first VSL. We'll talk about that in a second because it's really interesting. Also potentially the world's first blogger, first digital nomad, all these crazy things that people love and admire today. He was one of the very first people doing all of those. And he even put that he is the air guitar champion of Thailand. So I'm very happy to welcome Rob Palmer.
Troy, great to be here. So I'm really looking forward to doing this.
Likewise, yeah. So let's just start, at the beginning. It looks like you had somewhat of a traumatic experience that got you into this whole industry. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I always kind of wanted to be a writer. I love reading books and stories, and I started writing my own stories, all that kind of thing. So I had this kind of idea that I'd love to be a writer, but there was kind of pressure from my parents and other people to, you'll never make a living as a writer. It's not a proper job. You need to be an engineer or something like this. So I kind of got pushed down this engineering path, but my heart wasn't in it. I didn't enjoy it at all. So I was doing a kind of a university course, but I really didn't want to do it. But what happened was, to cut a long story short, when I was on vacation with some friends, and we ended up in the little boat out on the water, out at sea, and we kind of we lost track of how far we were. And when we started trying to row back to shore, we couldn't do it, and we ended up rowing so hard we broke one of the row locks that holds the oar in place, and the oar floated away. So we were left with one oar going round and round in circles. So I kind of said, well, look, one of us has got to go and get the oar, otherwise we're never going to get out of this. So I said, I can swim, I'll go and get it. So I kind of stripped down and dived in the water, got the oar, tried to swim back to the boat, but the current was pushing me further and further away. So then my friend who was in the boat, he's a big guy, 6'3", he said, don't worry, Rob, I'll come and rescue you. But he dived in, and we ended up, we're both stuck with this oar, unable to get back to the boat, and just one guy on the boat who couldn't swim. So it looked like there's no way we could get back, and we're like a mile out at sea. And I thought that was it. We're going to drown, and that's the end of it. But luckily, a boat, a kind of fishing boat, saw all the commotion. It came over to see what was going on, and they kind of pulled us out of the water at the last minute and saved us. So sitting on the beach after that, I just thought, wow, I've got a second chance of life now. I thought that was it, but now I've got a second chance. I'm not going to waste it doing engineering. I want to be a writer. So that's what I'm going to do. So I quit my course, set my stall out as a writer, and started picking up a bit of freelance work. And I've been writing ever since. So that's over 40 years now, and I'm still doing it, and I still love it.
That's incredible. And I'm not making this up when I say, of all the traumatic experience and how you got into the stories that I've ever heard when I interview people, that's got to be at the top. So that's wild, and I commend you for the things that you've done since then. So some of those things that we'll talk about, you mentioned Apple. I think I saw Microsoft at one point. How did you get into doing direct mail and make that shift from engineering into copywriting?
Yeah, so originally I was planning on being a kind of journalist. I was writing articles for magazines. So I'd never heard of copywriting. I have no idea what that was. But then gradually, as I started working with kind of corporate clients and doing kind of articles for them, I found that you could also do this kind of write ads and other stuff like that. And so gradually I kind of moved over, and I found you could get paid a lot more doing copywriting than kind of the more journalistic stuff. So I kind of gradually moved across. And then I got this job at Apple, came out the blue. I'd done a little bit of direct mail before that, but not a lot. But then they called, the agency they were working with called me and said, okay, we're looking for direct mail copywriter. Can you do that? And I said, yeah, sure, I can do that. So what it was, this was in UK, in London, back in the 90s. This is before Apple had Apple stores. So all their business went through dealers. But they had this idea that they could do like a direct mail campaign and send a catalog to a few million potential customers and do direct sales that way. So we started off with 5 copywriters, but 4 of them got fired in the first week. So there's only one left. So I had to write the whole thing myself. So we did this whole big campaign, big catalog, and sent it out. And it was a huge success. It was so successful. They had to fly in extra. They didn't have enough stock in the UK. They had to fly in stock from Europe, from Germany, and all over Europe just to keep up with the demand. It went so well. Then they said, okay, let's expand on this. Well, instead of doing just one catalog, we'll do business, one for education, and they did like 3 or 4 versions, and that really took off as well. So it was doing really well, but in the end, it was so successful, lawyers closed it down, because what happened was we were selling so much through this direct channel that was sucking all the sales out of the dealerships. So the dealers were all going broke. So they basically took Apple to court and said, look, you can't do this, you're putting us out of business. So in the end, Apple said, okay, we need you guys. So they closed it down. But it was, while it lasted, it was great fun. We had made a lot of money, and it was very interesting to be involved with Apple back in those earlier days.
Yeah, totally. And that's the thing. Sometimes things go too well and it creates, for lack of a better word, good problems. But
Yeah,
there's always a
right.
way to, transition and kind of move on to the next thing. But it's always a great experience to do so well that there's a problem. But
Yeah, yeah.
talking about the next very interesting thing, there's a lot of people that say they, wrote the first VSL, but this one involves VHS tapes. Is that correct? Could you talk a little bit more about
Back
that?
in February 1995, so it'd be a hard one to beat. So it was certainly early, if not the first, it was certainly an early one. And this was the client. I was actually working for a very small agency in a small town in northern England. And when they first contacted me, I thought, small agencies, they usually have small clients and small budgets. Is it worth it? But they persuaded me to go up and talk to them. And it turns out they've got one huge client, which is Belron, which you probably know is Safelite in the US, in the UK, it's Autoglass, it's Car Glass in Europe. Basically, they're all over the world. It's a huge glass company. And what they specialize in replacing like windshields. So if you get a crack in your windshield, you'll call your insurance company and they'll say, oh, take it to this shop. And if they've got a deal with Belron, then they'll replace it for you. But Belron had a big problem in that they had the perfect solution, but they were also the most expensive supplier in the market. So a lot of insurance companies were doing deals with smaller glass companies who would do a cheap deal. But if you do a cheap glass fix, a windshield replacement, it doesn't hold properly. If you're in a crash and the car rolls over, the windscreen pops out, the roof collapses, and everybody dies. So it's a pretty bad thing. So it's really important that it's done properly. But Belron couldn't get this message across to their clients. So my job was to find a way to do that. And so this was, their reps were given VHS tapes, the old good old-fashioned VHS tape, and they take these out to an insurance company and pop it in the machine and play video. So I said we should tell a story instead of doing this deadly dull PowerPoint kind of presentation where everybody just falls asleep. We need to explain this in a story. So I came up with this idea of I kind of the metaphor of skydiving. So I had two people skydiving. One had a parachute that's packed properly and in good shape, and the other one got a cheap parachute, kind of got a discount deal, and he jumped out, he didn't open, and he died. And so obviously, in that case, it's worth spending the extra money to get a decent parachute. So we're saying in the same case, you guys, you need to partner with a good company who could, otherwise your customer's going to die and they're going to sue you for billions or millions. So we did that, and it was a huge success, and the company took off. And the CEO told me that over the next 10 years, they estimated they made about $500 million in extra sales through that one campaign.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's it's a good hook there with the parachute, and obviously it's a good offer as well. It's like a B2B VHS VSL. So that's pretty awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Now you also mentioned in 1993 you're the world's first blogger. Tell me a little bit.
Maybe.
Yes.
But certainly very early one. And this was for working with another client, which is BT in the UK, as British Telecom. That's like the equivalent of AT&T in the US. So I did. They have a big research laboratory outside London. I used to do a lot of work with them. We do a quarterly newsletter, and they had one of these. It is like a R&D department, and they had one team in the R&D department come up with this idea of this new thing that no one had heard of called the internet. And they came up with this idea that we could publish this newsletter on this internet, but nobody else understood what the heck this was. But we decided we'd try it, and it was a major operation, even with all these guys with PhDs, just getting like a basic, effectively a blog post up online. It took a whole team to do it. And I was at home like 100 miles away, and we're on the phone just to see if I could see it on my screen. And eventually we got this thing published. And it's fantastic. But it worked out really well, even though the community on the internet community was really small in those days. It was just researchers and scientists and people in the defense industry, but that's the people that they want to reach with this message. So it helped them really get their word out and make the contacts so they could do deals and contracts and all that kind of thing. So yeah, that was back in mid '93, and that was nowadays that's blogging, but that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, it definitely sounded more complicated then than it does now. It's like when I launched copywriting.org, there's still so many moving parts and building the site and
Yeah,
team members are doing different things. But back then, oh my goodness, it's
yeah,
one of the first of its kind. So it's definitely a bit of a struggle to get it up, but
yeah.
obviously good work on that. Now you mentioned a few other things as well, that you were working with Commission Junction, which is now, CJ affiliate. And you're one of the first people on there. It sounds like you had some big success just working with affiliates as well.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, so this is around about 1999, 2000, when what's now CJ Affiliate was in Commission Junction. They launched that time, and I've been making some money as an affiliate before that, so I kind of understood the model, and I thought, well, I can turn this on the head and become the merchant rather than being the affiliate. So I signed up with their program. So I was one of the founder merchants, one of like first 50 or so to sign up. And yeah, that worked out really well. That turned into a kind of full-time online business, and it meant I had location freedom. So whereas previously I'd been tied to London and all the big kind of corporate clients in the southeast of England, all of a sudden I could move anywhere. So I was talking to my wife about it and say, well, maybe we should move. And we were thinking, yeah, maybe we should move out of town to Brighton. It's like 40 miles. And then we thought, oh, what the hell, let's go to Australia. So we ended up moving 10,000 miles and starting a whole new life, living by the beach. My kids grew up going surfing after school and all that kind of thing. And it's all possible because of affiliate marketing.
Yeah, that's cool. And you didn't have the ability to put it on Instagram and start flexing on people. You just
No.
enjoyed it for what it was. So
Yeah,
that's pretty
yeah.
cool. Just to see, there's a lot of people who really admire the lifestyle and want it for themselves. And it's really cool to hear that somebody was doing it, way back when. But
Yeah.
a couple more questions for you. So it sounds like obviously you have do you still consider yourself a freelancer?
Yeah, I still do freelance work. I mean, I look for kind of more like kind of JV deals, partnerships, but sometimes I'll do freelance as well. So it's kind of a mix of different things, and that keeps it interesting. And doing freelance stuff, you make new contacts and you get involved in kind of projects that you wouldn't do otherwise. And I find even that I'm still learning every day. Every time I write something, you learn something from the client you're working with or the way the project turns out. So it's kind of endlessly fascinating.
Yeah, what are some of the niches that you've worked in recently? I know you've probably worked in a lot, but just some, if somebody's considering reaching out to you, what's like what's a really good fit between you and a client?
Yeah, sure. So right now I'm really focused on supplements. I got some really good partners to work with on that. We've got a couple of deals we're working on right now. So we're planning to launch some products on ClickBank next year, and we'll have a couple more similar deals in the works. So certainly got a lot going on in the supplement space. But right now I'm also working on a financial offer. That's kind of like 401k rollover to gold IRA, that kind of thing. And also working on a business opportunity. So it's a mix of stuff. You never know what comes up, and that's what keeps life interesting, is variety. But yeah, it's usually the three big ones are things like health, financial, business opportunity, maybe personal development as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I agree. It's fun to receive different projects at different times and mix it
Yeah,
up a
yeah.
bit. But if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way? Is it email, website, LinkedIn?
Yeah, I guess probably the website. So just robpalmer.com, or you can email me at rob@robpalmer.com. That's the simplest way.
Awesome. And then final question for you, because I think this one's really cool. I'm a guitarist myself. I love music. And you said that you're the air guitar champion of Thailand 2022. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I play guitar as well, real guitar. But back in June, I suddenly saw a message on Facebook one day saying tomorrow is the Bangkok or Thailand Air Guitar Championship. And I just looked it up, and it looked like a really fun thing to do. So air guitar is basically no guitar. You're playing it. It's like a teenager in your bedroom kind of playing the guitar. So it really is it's kind of like performance art. And it's a serious business. People take this really seriously. So I entered the championship in Bangkok, won that. And so the organizers then flew me to Finland in August. And I took part in the World Championship on stage in Oulu in Finland in front of 6,000 people. So that was an amazing night, a lot of fun. So I didn't win, but we had a great time. And I think I'm probably going to do it again next year.
That's pretty cool. Honestly, that's like my favorite achievement out of all the cool things that we've talked about today.
Yeah.
I've seen Metallica 18 times, so I could basically air guitar the whole concert at this point.
All
But
right. Yeah, yeah.
nonetheless, if you want to get in contact with Rob, is robpalmer.com or rob@robpalmer.com. So, Rob, thank you very much for coming on here. This has been awesome.
Okay. Thanks, Troy. It's great.